Did you know you can sponsor your favorite podcast on the Spin Market Podcast Network? Hi, everybody. I'm Peter Stockdale, host of the Spin Market Report. In quarter one of 2026, our podcasts had over 300,000 views across all platforms, totaling 1,500 hours of watch time. So whether you're promoting a product, a service, or a special event, we can help you reach the audience that matters. Get more information on how to sponsor your favorite podcast on the Spin Market Podcast Network at spinmarket.com. That's Spin Market with 2Ks.com. Spin Market, your business, your message, our platform.
It's the Spin Market Report. Here's your host, Peter Stockdale.
All right, we're back. Another Marketing Monday. This week we're sitting down with Sarah Bernick. Sarah, you are the hostess of the Daily Happy podcast, and you're joining us remotely because we can do that here.
I'm excited to be here.
That's cool. We haven't had too many other podcast hosts.
No, we haven't.
I mean, other than, Full Swing, they've been on here in any permutation, etc. But yeah, you're one of the first people outside of here. Cheryl, did you meet her originally? Or?
Yes, I met Sarah at the Iowa State University award banquet it was Ivy Business School, wasn't it? Or no, Greenlee School. Was that right? And
yes, yeah.
Sarah won numerous awards, and she was sitting at my table along with Kimberly and Tracy, I think your professor or the dean.
Yep.
Okay.
Oh.
And, at that day, and she chatted and was very knowledgeable, and I thought, hey, and plus she has a podcast, she'd be the perfect one to bring on.
Awesome. Sarah, let's just kick it over to you now. Can you introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about yourself, your background in your own words?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, my name is Sarah Bernick. I am a recent graduate of Iowa State University. I graduated with a degree in public relations and a double minor in apparel merchandising and design and communication studies. I'm from Eastern Iowa, very, very small town, but I loved my experience at Iowa State, and I love all things public relations, writing, all of that good stuff. So I'm excited to be here today.
What got you interested in public relations?
So again, going back to that kind of small town, I just grew up where community was everything. And I would have a conversation every day with a new person, whether it was my neighbor or someone at the community club or the retirement home, something like that. And so I think I just really grew that love for public speaking. And then when I got to high school, I took on newspaper and was the editor-in-chief of our high school newspaper, realized that I absolutely loved writing. And so I thought that that was the perfect match. Funny enough, though, I actually didn't go to college for public relations to start off. I went off for interior design, which kind of, I guess, connects us back to the Daily Happy. I wanted to be an interior designer for hospital rooms because I felt that they were too dull for what was happening in them, and I wanted to design an area that kind of lifted spirits a little bit more. Got to design school, realized I didn't love it as a major. I realized that interior design was a little bit more of a hobby for me. And so I knew automatically that I wanted to switch to PR again because of that writing and public speaking. And it was the best decision I could have made for myself. I've had the best 4 years. And I've still been able to kind of transfer that wanting to do good in a different area. And so that's how I really got involved in public relations.
So did you always see yourself as like a public speaking, content creator, communications person? I know you said, doing the paper and things like that, but was podcasting ever on the radar?
Honestly, until the past year or so, I would say no. I've always really loved like content creating with social media and stuff, but more as just like a personal thing, a personal hobby. And then once I got more involved and I really understood more what public relation is and all the aspects that you can take it, I definitely got more interested in podcasting. And once I got started in my programs and stuff and realized that the resources that Iowa State had, that's when I really kind of took off with it.
All right. So What inspired you to start the Daily Happy, or what is the Daily Happy? Let me ask you that.
Yes, tell us about the Daily
Yeah.
Happy.
Yes. So the Daily Happy, I'll kind of break it down into what originally it sparked from. But I wanted to solve an issue that as a student, I felt that we were spending so much of our time comparing ourselves to others and not enough recognizing the things that we offer. And I think that comparing ourselves to others and putting all of our focus on materialistic items, is one of our biggest competitors, unfortunately, in today's society, especially with mental health. And so I wanted to create a space that allows people to recognize the value that they bring to their own lives, and kind of help them find that a little bit easier. Um, but yeah, so I started kind of that idea 3 years ago. I think I had an advertising class, and we got to pick out our own business, and it was really just to create the branding kit for it. And I had created the branding kit, and then I realized, this would be really cool to actually do something with. I have the brand kit now, but why don't I start something with it? Well, thankfully, there is a Start Something program at Iowa State that I got involved in. It's a 2-year program, and it's essentially like an entrepreneurship course, but it really just dives into how to start something. It doesn't guarantee that you need to have a business by the time you graduate it, but it's kind of a toolkit, and it provides students a better understanding of entrepreneurship. Mainly, it's more focused on innovation and what innovation is. And so I did the 2-year program. I was connected to mentors. We had a bunch of guest speakers, and originally my idea was that it was going to be a website and users could log on and fill out a short survey describing things that bring them joy, whether that was the environment or animals. And then from there, we curated daily deliveries based off of these preferences. So you'd wake up in the morning, you'd see a bright yellow box on your screen, you click on it, and out comes a yellow lab, your favorite animal. Well, then that's more joy than you were experiencing 5 seconds prior, just by seeing something that you didn't recognize brings you that joy. And so that was kind of the goal. Then this semester, I was like, all right, I am not a web designer. This is not going to get very far by myself. I don't have the computer skills for this, but obviously it's something that I know can make an impact because I see it with my friends. I see it in myself every day. And so I knew that Iowa State had a podcast studio in our innovation center, and I looked into that. Super easy to book. And I did my first episode and realized that this was more the path that I wanted to take. The website is still a dream, and I still hope to pursue it at some point, but turn it into a podcast instead.
That's awesome. So you almost have, like, you started out as like some sort of daily delivery,
Exactly.
but, digitally, of course. I'm assuming you weren't sending a whole golden retriever over to somebody's house or something, were you?
No,
Okay.
I wish. I wish.
Oh, that'd be awesome. So what was it like recording your first episode there? You said it was easy to book time, and did they have a producer there? Like, how did that all work?
Yeah, so they have a bunch of student workers there. So you essentially book the time and length that you want the studio for. And I was able to go down and they helped me kind of figure out the equipment and what colors. I'm kind of known, if you can't tell, I love the color pink. That's something about me and my show that every episode I'll wear pink in. And so my one request, I was like, is there any way you can make the background pink? And they did. So that was already a great start. But they help you figure that out. And then they do a little bit of sound testing, give you a thumbs up, and then you can say whatever you want to say for the time that you have. And what's really nice about the studio is once you're finished recording, they have a whole editing studio, or you can just drop it into whatever folder that you want and edit it at home, and it's good to go. So
Nice. Were you nervous when when they first said, like, okay, action? Were you nervous?
yes, I think I like blacked out. I was like, wait, what am I talking about? I don't even know what the show is, but I think the nice thing, again, like you were saying with podcasts, is you can take a second to breathe and find your feet, and then go ahead forward with it. I was definitely nervous. I think I overthink things in a sense, especially regarding mental health and, oh, are people even going to listen? Is what I'm saying stupid? And so once I kind of got that out of my head, I felt a lot better about going into other episodes.
Nice. Yeah, I will say, I mean, it's been you almost have to go back about 10 years, but my first podcast episodes I recorded were horrendously painful. Like, I mean, it's unlistenable almost. It's not great, but they're still out there hanging out there. For some reason, I left them out there. But what did you learn in the first few months that you've done this? I mean, you've got somewhere between 5 and 10 episodes. I don't have the exact number. I think it's 6 or 7.
Yeah. Yep.
So what all have you progressed as you've done these? Have they gotten easier? Have you learned things?
Absolutely. I've definitely learned that perfection doesn't exist. And so if that's something that I'm striving for, I'm never going to succeed with any episode. I think at the beginning, I went into it like, okay, this episode needs to be perfect or I'm not going to get any listeners. And then I've slowly realized, you know what? We have no actual definition of perfection. And if that's what I'm constantly chasing, I'm never going to succeed with anything that I talk about. And so that was definitely a big thing to overcome. I think also a big challenge for me was making sure that I wasn't getting repetitive with the content I was talking about. Obviously, with mental health, there's a million different things that you can talk about, but I get so passionate and excited when I'm talking that sometimes I blend like 7 different categories that could be 7 different episodes into one. And so I think just making sure I think I've focused more on kind of doing subcategories of one category, and so that I'm able to kind of spread that love out through multiple episodes. And that's something I've really learned throughout each podcast that I do.
Yeah, it's important not to, I don't say like burn up too much content in just one episode when you can kind of stretch it out, even though, sometimes that one episode could be like the hero episode. It's the one that has, just listen to this one. It's got it all. But then you could have just as easily made this into 4 or 5 episodes. That's not always something easy to do. You do have guests on your podcast though. You think you saw your mom was on there?
Yes, yeah. So I guess I would call myself at the beginning, it was kind of reverse podcasting in a way, where how I got my content is everything I talk about in all the episodes sprout from real problems that I face or conversations that I've had with people in real life. So let's say I'm going on a walk with my friend and maybe she talks about something that she had a really hard day, something she's struggling with. Well, that gives me an idea in my head of maybe something, obviously without naming her or anything, but something I can talk about on the podcast that surely other people are going through. And so my goal is never to teach people how to be happy because that's just not realistic, but more letting people know that they're not alone in the things that they're going through. But most recently, I had my mom on. That episode is now live. I called it A Daughter's Questions and a Mother's Wisdom, but it was just really great to hear kind of her perspective on things and maybe things that she thought were a big deal when she was my age and now what that looks like her age. And then recently, one that's going live next week, I had my mentor on, who works at student wellness at Iowa State. And he has really been great this year, just helping me understand all aspects of mental health and kind of how I can approach that as a student, because I never want to come off as I'm a therapist or anything like that. And so that was really great to kind of have him come on and share his insight on everything.
I think you got a gold money episode with the mom. You talking about like, what did this bother you when you were this age? And then if you fast forward 20, 30, 40 years, does it bother you now? And what, how do you wrap your brain around that stuff? As crazy as it sounds, I'm probably about twice your age. My sister came back for the last weekend and her and my mom were talking and they kind of had a conversation that's very similar to that. And it's kind of neat to hear how everybody's perception changes, as we age and things like that. So, I mean, gold topic there for sure. I'm sure a lot of people would be able to relate to that. Let's say like somebody's, you talked about how you're kind of nervous the first time and you've learned as you've gone, but could you give it somebody, let's say they want to start a podcast, what's the best piece of advice you think you could give them to start off?
I think that your biggest regret is not going to be doing it. So maybe you ask yourself, what's the worst that's going to happen? Well, in my opinion, the worst that's going to happen is you don't do it. Maybe you're scared because you don't think anyone's going to listen, but then you do it and you get one listener. That's one mindset that you shifted more than you did before. And so I think that you're never going to know the outcome unless you try. And if it's something that you're passionate about, always pursue it.
Absolutely. I mean, we went to a seminar once. We were talking, Cheryl and I, we went to a seminar once, and somebody was talking about podcasting at this seminar, and they said, even if you only have 20 or 50 listeners a week, that's like saying, if that'd be like if you went on stage and there's 50 people in the crowd every single week and you're talking to them, like that's a lot of people. It doesn't seem like, you got all these other podcasts, your top tier podcasts, one's winning all the awards, they're getting millions. But at the same time, who wouldn't want to talk to 50 people? And as crazy as it sounds, also, if your mindset is like, nobody's going to listen to this, it might not be good. Well, if you put it out there, nobody listens, then you've just manifested zero, and you're okay. Guess what? You're fine. So give it a shot. You never know. Like you said, you can progress so fast with this too. Like first episode, rough. Second episode, at least twice as good. Third episode, now it's like, this is actually good now. This is, we're cooking on all cylinders here. So you talked about how you come up with some of the ideas for these episodes, whether they be conversations with your peers or your friends or your family. What topics seem to resonate the most with the listeners? Obviously, you're keying in on happiness here and letting people know that just because you think this way doesn't mean you're alone. But what seems to resonate the most with the listeners?
That's a great question. I would say, well, originally I started the Daily Happy for, people my age and going through similar things in college. And then once I kind of published it and I would kind of post on my personal platform about it, I received so much feedback from, adults and stuff. And so I realized that everything I talk about applies to everyone. It's not just a specific age. But funny enough, I would say more of the negative things that I talk about resonate the most with people, just because people love to hear that they're not alone, especially in dealing with, I've had a really rough day, but life goes on. Someone might be watching and think, wow, I'm so glad I'm not the only one who had a really rough day, but if she can move on from it, so can I. So I think that people really resonate with knowing that they're not alone and knowing that they're not alone through hardships, especially.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's definitely something, we always kind of share this, like, I don't want to say it's like negativity, but when we have a bad day, it's kind of obvious, but it's almost weird that this is almost like a digital pat on the back. Like, it's going to be okay. And I just love that, because sometimes people don't have that in their daily life. People can go their whole day and maybe not a single person will say, you did a good job today, or thank you for coming in, or, hope you smile more, or just any of those things. Like, there's, some people don't have those people in their life. So having a podcast to lean on, whether it be every single week or whatever it is amazing. What has been the biggest challenge to grow the podcast? I'm sure you figured out, you put the first episode out, you put it on Facebook, and then you're just kind of like, and now what? Have you found that it's difficult to grow this, or have you found that the crowd grows itself?
I would say to start out, it grew pretty quickly just because a majority of it was my peers and, people I know listening. And I think that as it's got on, the biggest struggle for me is how can I get people who don't know me to trust kind of the things that I'm talking about. And so I think trust has been a big thing, just because it grew so quickly, because the people listening do know me and do trust me, and I can talk about those things. But I think I'm learning, kind of facing that challenge of how can I grow and how can I gain strangers' trust in listening to me. And so I think that's kind of been the biggest challenge I'm facing. Again, though, just hooking on to, social media grows every day, and creating that TikTok. Well, maybe I posted a TikTok and it wasn't my actual podcast, but I'll post short clips and it's still mental health things. Well, I just had one go viral, and it's like, you know what? They don't know me, but I got 8,000 likes that maybe changed someone's day. And so I think starting off small and then maybe eventually working its way towards bigger things is how I'm kind of going to go about this. So.
Nice. Yeah. And I think about like podcasting. It's one of the things we always talk to people that come in here to this marketing agency and do podcasts. Like, you're the expert on this. I mean, you might not think you're the expert because you said, you're not a therapist, et cetera, but putting out episode after episode, that shows your dedication to this. And that shows that, you're wearing your heart on your sleeve every single episode. And those types of things are the things that are going to make you the expert in this, is just the fact that you've been around and you're willing to talk about this. Because if someone is a quote unquote expert and they don't want to talk about it, then are they really the expert, And those are the kind of things I like to think about when it comes to podcasting, is just like you said, going out and doing it sometimes is the most important part.
Absolutely.
All right. So what's your favorite part about being a podcast host? Let me ask you that.
Ooh, I think I learn things about myself every time I podcast. And so maybe I pick a theme and I'm talking about it, and I'll like say a story that comes to mind, and then all of a sudden I'm like, wait, I made it through that. Like I don't necessarily think about it in the moment, and then I'll finish the podcast and I'll think, wow, I did all of that. That's awesome. I would have never thought about that before. So I think it's cool to learn about myself as I go through every episode, because yes, I'm trying to help other people knowing they're not alone, but it's also helping myself at the same time. So
I
I
feel,
think that's the best part about it.
I think those are probably my favorite things about podcasting. I like to call them like on-screen epiphanies, where you just like, you don't even realize that you were thinking this way, or like you overcame a difficult situation, or the impact something had on you, until you're like really sitting down and thinking about it sometimes, right?
Absolutely.
All right. Have there been any episodes that have been especially meaningful to you? Any episodes with topics?
Yeah, I would say my first episode, finding that I called Finding the Little Things, that one I hold really close to my heart, just because that title is kind of what the Daily Happy is. And I got a lot of feedback on that. I had a friend who's a nurse, and she reached out to me and she's like, I deal with so much throughout the day. It's hard to find any light in anything, just seeing what's going on, and listening to your podcast, like it makes me feel like I can look forward to little things. And so I think that that very first podcast kind of gave me more confidence. And I love talking about things that we can recognize that are everywhere, that can bring us joy, and that we don't have to buy, or we don't have to compare ourselves for. And so I would say that first episode definitely has been the most powerful to me.
Has podcasting changed how you communicate with people? As we do these podcasts, you can kind of think about, like you said, sometimes you'll bring topics from off camera on a regular day, and you'll bring it into the studio and talk about it. But knowing that these topics are out there, has it changed how you communicate with other people?
Absolutely. I would say now I communicate by putting myself in other people's shoes. So maybe before I would have communicated by, okay, this is how I feel like the right way to communicate is based off of me. But now when I'm having conversations, I approach it as, what would the other person want to hear? Or if I were them, what would make me feel better? And so I think that's kind of how I go about conversations, is understanding who I'm talking with and kind of trying to connect more with them, rather than just giving my approach and what I think is best. So
I like that a lot. I was talking with somebody else the other day about that, how like sometimes I don't know what to say, and someone's like, well, I'm having a bad day, and I'm just like, well, try and get some sleep and feel better tomorrow. And then it's like, I don't know what else to say, instead of being like, actually, like, I think what you're describing is being empathetic with their emotions, where sometimes it's just, I feel like maybe that's why your podcast is so great, is because so many people are just like, drink a glass of water, or go for a walk. And they just have like those work, but they just say those things and they're like, this is it, that's it, and that's the end of it, where you're actually going through and having these conversations and pulling out difficult topics with them, and then bringing them to light for other people.
absolutely. I appreciate that.
All right. So the most difficult part of podcasting, I put in here, what's the hardest part of creating content consistently? I feel like that's the hardest part, but what's the most difficult part for you?
I would say, especially when I was in college, I think that my schedule was so go, go, go that I'd have to find an hour in my day just to rent the studio. And then after that, it's like, okay, well, now when am I gonna edit it? And then it kind of go on and on and on. And it's like, okay, I gotta put something out. Like I have the podcast, but I have it raw. I need to just like make sure it's uploaded, make sure it's ready to go. And so I think I'd get in these blocks when I was in school, if there was so many other things on my mind. But then I guess it only takes one person to say, when's the next podcast coming out? To realize, you know what? Maybe some people are waiting on this, and maybe that's a little the nudge that I needed. So
That's where the gratitude comes in. You're going, oh, okay. Yeah, somebody actually listened to me and they paid attention and they want to hear from me again.
And they want more.
They want more.
Yeah. Yeah.
exactly.
It's one thing
That's kind of what keeps me going.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's one thing to try, like, oh, here's a slice of pizza, try it. Is it any good? And you're like, I don't know, sure. They tried it, but if somebody's like, I want another piece of that, then that's good.
Yep.
So you're making good content. You had talked a little bit about you were in school when you started this, single major, double minor, correct? Was that okay?
Yep.
So that's not just a little bit of school, ladies and gentlemen. So how did you stay motivated to do all of this? Were you like carving out, like, were you doing like studio time at 3 a.m. on a Saturday, or like how were you doing all of this?
I actually would record most of them on Sundays. I would make sure that I did it in the afternoon because I'd get all my homework done but I think to stay motivated, I just remember my why and I remember how much peace it brings me. And if that's an hour of peace through my week, then I absolutely want to do that. And so I think just staying grounded in what it represents and what I'm trying to solve and helps me stay motivated through everything. And it's one of my favorite things to do. And so I never really look at it like something I have to do, but more of something I get to do. So.
Nice. Good positive mindset there. What's something about podcasting people don't realize because they're either not behind the camera or behind the microphone? Or what was something you didn't really realize until you started recording and then you were like, oh, there's more work to this than I had initially thought, or consistency is going to be more difficult than I thought because I have school, or what were some things for you?
Yeah, I would say consistency is a big one. Just again, figuring out, okay, is this going to be a weekly thing? Is this going to be a bi-weekly thing? And again, that's still something that I'm working to figure out because every week looks different at school and sometimes you don't have the time to upload something. And I think it's harder for people to realize if they're not kind of in that position. And I talk with my supervisor a lot for the program and he'd be like, okay, you have to remember, like, this is a big commitment if this is something you're going to do every single week. And so I think just understanding that it's not sitting down and then it's up on Spotify 5 minutes later, but kind of going through and then again, listening, okay, and what I'm saying making sense? Like, is this what I wanted it to come across as? Because I never want to say anything either that's going to upset or offend anyone or taken out of context that I wanted it to. And so just making sure that I'm rewatching and understanding everything that I'm saying is really important to me, at least. And then, yeah, I would just say consistency as a whole. Creativity is a big one. Again, I get it from other people, but I think that kind of just I get in these like hard times sometimes where, maybe my mental health's not great and I don't have any creativity, anything flowing that I feel like I can even talk about. And so I think that's a big thing is sometimes just taking a break for yourself and then maybe coming back stronger the next week.
Yeah, you had mentioned rewatching to make sure you're saying things, they come out organically as they are in your brain, I guess. Like you said, no, they don't want to be taken out of context, especially if you're making clips out of things. That's something I think is really important. Maybe that's something a lot of people don't realize about podcasting is you have to do the research for it and then sit down and record it and then edit it. And then when it's either edited or when it's published, re-listen to it and critique yourself. And, we're all our own worst critics anyways. But I think that's the one thing a lot of people forget about podcasting is there's more than just sitting down behind the microphone and then it's done. Sometimes we can, here at places like this, we can take some of the workload off. We can edit it. We can sit behind the camera and do all that stuff. But it's still beneficial to go back and re-listen. We have a podcast here where one person had told me, I don't normally go back and re-listen, but I went and re-listened and I noticed I say this a lot. And it's like, well, I just view that as that's how you are and it's okay to me. But if that's something that bothers you, it's good that you re-listened and now you can change it going forward, And so re-listening there's a lot of time. Let's just say there's a lot of time involved in this. And it's not just, like you said, you're done and 5 minutes later it's on Spotify with a million listens.
Well, you know that you're doing it really good when somebody thinks it's super simple to do.
Yeah.
Then they're going,
Totally.
oh, yeah, we made it look so good that it must be super easy to do.
That there's no preparation or anything like that.
Yep. You just walked in and snapped your fingers and it's done. Okay, so what have you learned about yourself doing podcasting? Let me ask you that.
Mm. I think that I've grown a lot through the podcast. I think that specifically, I started off because I felt that I was a very happy person. And then I've realized that everything I talk about is something that I struggle with. And so I think that I've learned that, again, back to the perfection thing, nobody's perfect and that you constantly have something that you could grow with. I think I also used to think that happiness was something you achieved. And now I see it more as something that you practice. And there's things that you can implement every day that make you feel better, but you don't feel like you're constantly working towards one goal. And so I think that that's kind of something I've learned through my time here is little things that I can implement to make me feel better and to feel like I'm growing without feeling like I'm constantly climbing to reach this one point.
Yeah, this unattainable thing that was never actually a thing. It's like a mirage up there.
Exactly, exactly.
What's that saying? It's like the destination is not like the journey is the thing that you're supposed to be enjoying, not the destination itself. Let's go with another. Let's spin this the other way. Have you learned anything about other people while doing this? Whether you have your conversations with other people, bring them on, listen to the feedback from the comments section. What have you learned about other people?
Yeah, I have learned that, and especially kind of talking with my mentor, everyone has mental health. It's just a matter of where people fall on that spectrum. And so understanding that I don't necessarily have to say things in hopes that it lands to a certain side of the spectrum of where people fall on mental health, because we all have mental health, whether it's here or whether it's here. But just understanding that if I can say one thing that, can help everybody, then that's kind of what matters to me is understanding that this can be applied to everyone. I don't have to hit a certain target audience. And I think that was my hardest thing going through the Start Something program is that a large part is recognizing your target audience. And especially with products, it's like, okay, you're obviously going to have a certain audience, whether it's age or whatever that might be. And I kept trying to tell my supervisor, I was like, I think my audience is everyone. Like, I don't know how I'm supposed to narrow down mental health and trying to help people to just one age. And so that's kind of really why I focused on college students was because that was what the age I was. And that was kind of how I could best explain things to people, what I was struggling with to maybe people my age. And then I realized that, everyone struggles with these things and you can't really put a label on mental health. So.
Yeah, whether it be a B in chemistry class or a flat tire on the way to work. I mean, everybody goes through something every single day. And it's, even if it's not the same source, it's the struggle is the same in some capacity. I had a question down here. Have your views on happiness changed since you started the show? And you answered that beautifully, like just a couple minutes ago, by saying it's no longer this one thing that you just attain and it's done. It's this constant journey that you're working towards. So I just wanted to point out that question was on here, and you answered it wonderfully.
Thank you.
Where would you like to see the Daily Happy podcast? Let's say in the next year or so.
Yeah, so I am hoping to kind of get my equipment. I think the beauty of podcasting is that, it's not going to be a beautiful studio like I had at Iowa State, but all you need is your voice. And I think that that's something I can do anywhere. And so when I get in another one of those kind of roadblocks, I just have to remind myself, you don't have to be in a specific place to podcast. And so I think in a year, I'd love to continue kind of getting on that schedule of posting bi-weekly or through the week. In a couple of years, I'd love to host some sort of Daily Happy convention, I guess. And so maybe a group of people meet somewhere in the US or somewhere in the city that I am, obviously start a little bit smaller and then work its way up. But I'd love to kind of have those meetings in person and just have people talk about the things that bring them joy in life and doing things like that. So moving it from virtually, digitally to in person would be my overall goal.
That's beautiful. I think a lot of people with podcasting, they think, well, the next thing I can do is a live podcast, but that's not, you could do that at one of these conventions, but you're talking about a bigger dream than just, this is more than just a podcast. This is something that everybody struggles with. And a lot of people have resonated with the conversations you're having. All right, so we're getting close to the end here. I got a few questions left. If you could interview anybody, who would it be?
Ooh,
I mean, you already interviewed, you already talked to your mom, so
I know.
So-
She's
Done,
off the table.
check.
off the table. Can't get nailed it. Boom. Next question.
I'll say my dad just so he feels included. But if I were
Okay.
to actually, if I were to actually pick anyone, I would pick Mel Robbins. I'm sure you are familiar with her, but famous podcaster and author. But she's the person that I actually gain a lot of my inspiration from, just because she's made me realize that you could be the most admired person in the world and still struggle with things every day. And so that kind of makes me feel a little bit better about where I'm at. And I think the things that she posts day by day help people. And so I would love to have her give her peace of mind and kind of talk with me on my podcast. So
That's
That's
awesome.
a lofty goal.
yeah, I know, seriously.
But, you know-
it's gonna take a while.
The worst that could happen is she says, no, I'm sorry. I'm too busy. I can't do it. So go for it.
Maybe
Exactly.
she'll just say, I'll do it next year.
Yeah.
You know, you know?
Next year.
Next year.
She'll come to the convention.
Yeah.
there you go.
Hey, boom, you got it. We're carving out some plans here, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, this is too broad of a question. Can you give someone advice on like something they could do to improve their mood? Let's just say you're driving home from work, you had a rough day. What's something you can do to just start flipping it around the other way?
Yeah. I always lean back to reaching out to someone that I haven't talked to in a while. So last spring, I spent the semester in Hawaii on National Student Exchange. And there were days that they were hard because I was so far away from people. And I'd talk to my normal people every day, but I'd start reaching out to people that had been on my mind, but I just hadn't talked to. And I'd just be like, hey, thinking of you, so proud of you. And I'd often get these long paragraphs about, oh my gosh, like this means so much to me. And even though it meant so much to them, it brought me so much joy knowing that, it made a difference for them to hear from someone. So I think that if you can reach out to someone who maybe you haven't talked to in a while and just let them know that you're thinking of them or seeing how they're doing, it goes so much farther than you think. And again, it's one of those things that doesn't do any harm, but it could do more good than you can imagine. So
I love that because you're a young adult, let's just say, and I am a middle-aged adult, let's just say. And as I went from your age to my age, I realized that there were a lot of people that I talked to every single day of my life that somehow or another just slipped through the cracks, and they went off, had kids, got married, moved to another state. Things just happened, and then before you know it, I haven't talked to this person in 4 years. And I love that advice because there's so many times where it's like, I want to reach out to this person, but maybe I feel embarrassed, or what if they don't want to talk to me, or but like getting one of those texts back where somebody would send you a whole paragraph would absolutely make my day. So I think that is amazing advice. We'll see if I practice it, but
Okay.
but I love that. When you said that, I was just like, oh wow, like just thinking to myself like, that's definitely something I haven't done. So
Email him a yellow lab
yes,
as
yes,
a
I'll send you a
reminder.
picture of my
yes,
dog.
yes, there you go. So that it reminds him of what he said today.
There you go.
all right, we're down to the last couple questions here. If somebody listens to just one episode of the Daily Happy podcast, what do you hope they take away from it?
I like to tell people that even on cloudy days, the sun is still there. It's just hidden behind the clouds. And I love to remind myself that, there is so much beauty in this world. We just oftentimes don't see it. And so I think if someone listens to the podcast, I want them to walk away and think, you know what? I am going to appreciate that breakfast that I had this morning, or I am going to appreciate my boss telling me I did a good job, just because all of those things make such a big difference. I would also say I want people to recognize again that no one is perfect. We all struggle with our own things, and you're not alone either. And so if someone can walk away and feel like they have someone there beside them that's dealing with something similar, then that's a win for me. And maybe a couple things that they can take away with them in the future that'll help them out.
I like that. These are really good answers.
Yes.
These are really good answers. It made me think sometimes we just take things for granted. Like you said, like somebody just says good job and you're just like, thumbs up, neat, walk away. You don't think about it twice, but they took time out of their day to actually tell you that they thought what you did was good. So why not appreciate it? They could have just as easily just went along with their day, and then you would have not had that nice sunshine in your life. And, I don't know. It just, your perception on this is great. It's something I'm quickly learning I might need to adjust a little bit in my own life. So I'll go through a few of these episodes.
That's a major part on yours, to have him admit that he may need to.
Like I said,
I'm honored.
Yes, you should be.
Like I said, it's these on-air epiphanies that you get to have. Sometimes I think like hosting a podcast too, it's okay to just admit you might be wrong, or like this is just an opinion, and just put it out there and go on with your life. And this has been really good. I only have one other question for you, but before we get to it, is there anything we haven't discussed that you would like to discuss?
I would love to ask you guys, what are little things in your life that bring you joy?
This is going to be a weird one. My cat.
Yeah.
I'm not much of a lovey-dovey, let's have pets, yada, yada, yada person, but there are times where I just grab my cat and I'm just like, oh, I just love you. It's like, I don't know what the deal is. It's, I don't know. That's been the one that's just, every time I see it, I'm just like, there's my cat. Look at that cat.
Makes you smile.
Yeah.
Yes.
I don't know why.
There.
How about you, Cheryl?
Probably what's really is the grandkids.
Nice.
Okay. So Bennett is going to be a charmer. We can tell that already because he knows how to put anybody in a good mood. Hayden is actual copy of her mom, and I don't know if that's it is good. That is good on there. And then of course you got Caleb and Carter. That when you're sitting there listening to them, you're going, okay. It's amazing what they've been able to do and where they're at in their lives already. And then you go back and you start thinking about your own kids, like Brandon, how he relates to Caleb and Carter, and Kinsey, how she relates to Bennett and Hayden. So I would say that.
I like that.
I love that.
It's a good answer too. All right. So this is going to be kind of an open-ended question. I ask it to everyone to end these episodes. Maybe we need to switch this question up. We've done 100 episodes of this and asked the same question every time. But can you name a time in your life, Sarah, that marketing has impacted you and you possibly didn't know it until afterwards? You come from, I would say, like the realm of this type of work with your studies in some capacity, but has marketing ever impacted you and you were like, oh, I already have this thing in my hand. I didn't realize that the marketing worked.
Yeah. I have a favorite coffee shop that I go to, and every time I have someone visit, I'm like, oh, we have to go to this coffee shop. They have the best coffee, blah, 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 blah. As I've gotten older, I've realized that it's not the coffee that has drawn me in, it's the atmosphere. But I keep going back to buy the coffee because the place makes me feel warm and it makes me feel happy. And I realized that they've marketed their coffee shop, their atmosphere so well that people come back for the coffee, but they come back just to experience the place. And I think that that's something that I realized is even walking into different stores and stuff, the way that you approach the atmosphere is a whole realm of marketing. I think we're used to, especially as a PR person, seeing everything digitally, but it can be just as easily marketed in person too. So
that's good. I don't think anyone's ever even remotely come close to that answer.
That is totally different answer than we've ever had before, but spot on.
That's the fun part about this. It's such a weird open-ended question. Some people are just like, I bought Ben and Jerry's last night and I didn't, it's like, okay. Or like I drove past a billboard every day and then didn't realize I bought the thing until I saw the billboard was there. And it's like, oh, that subliminally got you or whatever. But this is a good one because a lot of people have this exact same thought, but we don't actually like apply it in our brains to be like, I come in here because I like coming in here. Not necessarily because of the food or the whatever.
Right.
It's the atmosphere. It's the people behind the counter. It's the people that are also the other patrons in this place that make me feel good, etc. That's a great answer.
You did a good job.
Thank you.
I knew
Thank
you would. I knew you would.
Thank you, Cheryl.
All right. I'm going to hunt down your TikTok link as well as your Spotify link for your podcast. As of right now, the podcast is on Spotify, and that's the only place as of right now.
Yes, I'm working on getting it. Maybe I'll reach out to you guys for some assistance, but on other platforms. But right now, Spotify.
Sweet. And are the video versions on Spotify too?
Yep. Yeah.
Beautiful. That's amazing. Great job.
You're the second student that has said they're going to reach out on podcasts. Because remember Landon?
Yep.
From Mason City?
Yep.
So you're the second one so far here in the last month that has said they were going to reach out and talk to us about podcasts.
Well, we did a seminar too, and had some kid come in here. It's been popping off here lately with the podcast realm. So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
I hope it's a growing industry.
Absolutely,
it is. It is a growing industry. It's one of those markets that resonates all ages, as you have already said with what your podcast is. But there's so many other things that you can do with a podcast. Outside of just listening to it, there's so many other things that you can do with it. So it's a perfect marketing media.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, Sarah, thank you for joining us. Again, I'm putting all the links down below that I can find for the Daily Happy podcast. Click, like, follow, subscribe, share it. Just share it with somebody. If you listen to an episode and it makes you smile, just everywhere you listen or whatever, there's a share button. Just click it and send it to somebody. It's nice and easy to do. Sarah, thank you for joining us. Don't go away, but thank you very much for joining us on the podcast.
Thank you.
Yes, I appreciate you all inviting me, and it was a pleasure to join you.
Yes, very much. Thank you so much.
Thank you. This podcast is produced by Spin Market Digital. Located in Fort Dodge, Iowa, Spin Market's highly skilled team can help you increase your market by updating your website, improving SEO, designing advertisements, and producing podcasts that will grab the attention of your market. Contact Spin Market today for all your digital marketing needs at digitalagent@spinmarket.com or call us at 515-302-8026. And to learn more, visit our website at www.spinmarket.com. That's digitalagent@spinmarket.com or 515-302-8026. Or visit our website at www.spinmarket.com.